Hey everybody, so this what if is kind of like my what is Deku 20 years in the future. Pretty much I'm going to be making my own story, but with My Hero Academia characters in My Hero Academia world. So, basically this is what if Deku was in the zombie apocalypse with zombie outbreak, whatever you want to call it, or more specifically was a zombie. So Deku's life is the same, but when the zombie apocalypse goes down, Deku was walking down the street, pretty much just minding his business, when pretty much some weird looking guy in the middle of the street goes and just start biting people. One of these heroes gather up those people that he bit and tells him to stop, but they just maul that guy and they kill him. Everybody's panicking at this point. They're running and running and running. People are getting bit, transformed. People are more getting eaten and ripped apart. At this point, Deku's just running his ass off, trying to get away from these murderers or these monsters. Eventually, Deku gets in a corner, and he gets cornered by about 10 zombies. And one of those zombies is a pro hero. That pro hero has a sort of a rock quirk and pretty much, sort of shoots a rock right through Deku's stomach. After that, the zombies pretty much just maul Deku, like biting off his arm to a point that is just bones. They start biting Deku's leg, and pretty much just chunks of flesh are just gone. Eventually, they stop because something tastes weird. Deku in this universe, he has a dormant quirk, but his doctors say Deku would never be able to unlock his quirk. That's why Deku was treated like he was quirkless. And Deku's quirk is called Adaptation. Deku can adapt his cells to such an extent that he can pretty much fight off any um disease. Since Deku was already infected with the zombie virus as soon as he got, bit the first time, his quirk didn't activate. The zombie virus is already in Deku's system before Deku could adapt to it, meaning Deku was transformed into a half man, half zombie. So Deku could still function like a normal human, but Deku couldn't feel pain. Deku wouldn't be Deku does eat and drink and sleep, but he doesn't need to do any of those things to keep maintain his pretty much body and his lifestyle. Deku also doesn't have an urge for brains or blood or flesh. Maybe just a little bit, but not much to just maul somebody. And also, Deku does have increased everything. Deku has increased senses. He's increased senses, agility, and speed, and reflexes. Deku pretty much like Daredevil. So yeah, Deku has about the same strength as 1% of One For All, and Deku pretty much has enough. Well, Deku technically, since he's dead, technically Deku's dead. He is able to tap into his adrenaline on pure instinct, not being able to just go in a situation. Deku can instantly turn on a switch in his brain to turn on his adrenaline. So Deku can use his adrenaline anytime he wants, giving him a sort of a super strength. So Deku pretty much just after, them leaving Deku there, they walk out of the alleyway, and Deku wakes up a few minutes later, coughing up some blood. Deku gets up and sees that his leg is ripped. The flesh on his leg is ripped off. Deku looks at his hand. Sorry, guys. Deku looks at his hand, and it's all bony. There's nothing there. And Deku's surprised, like, how the hell is his hand even sticking together? It's like little tiny veins around his bones, but like, I didn't know these tiny veins could pull a bone together. So Deku got up and pretty much seeing all his clothes being like ripped to shreds. Deku saw somebody else, says somebody that got their head blown out by a zombie that had some sort of fire quirk. Deku pretty much stripped that guy, took his outfit, and this is pretty much what Deku looks like. Deku's also bleeding from the head and bleeding from the eyes because Deku's in his transition, pretty much dying. Deku's technically already dead. So apparently you're saying Deku adapted to the zombie virus because of his dormant quirk. Yeah, basically that's what happened. Deku's body adapted to the zombie virus to such an extent that Deku did sort of cure himself from the zombie virus. Meaning that Deku is pretty much recognized by the zombies as one of their own, but Deku isn't theirs. So yeah, pretty much Deku also will have the ability to control zombies in the future, but not to like a certain extent. So Deku also his hair did turn black and his eyes did go and the part of his eye with color and the pupil is completely black. His white part of his eye is still there, like the main part of your white eye, the rest of your eye, but your pupil is pure black. So yeah, Deku gets up and pretty much just walks around. Deku develops a couple new abilities. Since Deku already has enhanced senses, Deku also has enhanced strength and all that other stuff. But Deku also can slowly regenerate from wounds. About 12 times faster than normal humans. Healing process. So if Deku got his bones snapped, Deku would be able to heal from it in about 2 weeks. If Deku got impaled, Deku can heal from that in about a week. So bones breaking and being stabbed and shot is one thing, but when Deku's like getting disintegrated or being eaten, Deku can sort of regenerate from that for a couple of months. So at this point, Deku is going to have that bony hand and that ripped up leg for about a couple of, days. So Deku, seeing the man that, had that outfit, he did have baggy pants that went over his, went down to his ankles. So Deku didn't have to, walk around with fucking shorts showing off his bony leg. Deku also picked up a glove from an abandoned store, like a long glove, and put it on. It seemed that it would be useful, because what if he found a survivor and they thought he was a zombie? Because Deku did develop pale ass skin. Pretty much you see this skin texture? That's pretty much what Deku's skin texture looks like. So Deku is walking down the street, pretty much just looking around, and then he sees a couple of houses, like a penthouse. Oh, like he walks into the rich neighborhood. Deku's walking and walking and walking, and pretty much everybody in the rich neighborhood think Deku's like, a zombie or something. So Deku starts getting shot at. Deku starts walking and then he yells out, "I'm not a zombie," and the bullets stop flying. The people in the houses are confused. Deku walks by a huge fortress with everything like around it, gates and everything. And it opens and says, "What are you doing out here? Get in." And pretty much a man pretty much chucks Deku inside of the house. Deku is told by the man that we're the Yaoyorozus, and you just walking out there like nothing's happening. It's the zombie apocalypse coming out. Kid, what are you doing all alone? And why are you bleeding so much? And pretty much the man calls in his wife and says, how about you treat him real quick? Deku says, no, I'm good. This is dry blood. And pretty much the man looks at Deku with a confused look, but just shrugs it off. So after that, they pretty much, like, a young girl walks out of her room, aka Momo Yaoyorozu. And you probably wondering, if you already wonder this. I'm not gonna be shipping Deku with Jiru, because that's what one What If animator did with What If Deku was in the zombie apocalypse. I'm gonna be shipping Deku with Momo. So yeah. So Deku is pretty much in the room, and Momo starts talking to Deku of how zombie apocalypse started for him. Deku said, I was walking down the street and a couple of zombies cornered me. Somebody saved me, then he just ditched me after he saved me. Deku lied about that part because he didn't want them to know that he got bit and almost eaten alive. So the girl says, well, we were in our house and we heard screaming. We went outside and we saw a man being eaten alive by a woman. And we knew, and those were our neighbors. Our neighbors loved each other so much. They had like 4 kids, but they literally just ate each other. And their kids tried to eat us. We had to, shoot them. And it was pretty hard because we knew those people for years. Deku was actually really sorry for Momo and said, "So, what are you doing, for this whole other thing?" Momo says, "We already stocked up enough, have our own fortress and everything, so we will be good until we have to get some more food." So Deku says, "Well, sorry to interrupt, but I have to go." Momo grabs Deku's shoulder, and Deku is a little bit more, you could say, HOT. So Deku pretty much is about the same height or taller than Momo. Deku is about 12 inches taller than Momo. So Momo sees Deku as sort of like a hot guy. Pretty much Momo doesn't even look. Momo doesn't even have to, recognize that he is poor or not because it's a zombie apocalypse. I don't even think money is even a thing anymore. I mean, bullets and probably drugs is the only thing that would be super valuable in the zombie apocalypse. So, Deku pretty much gets hit on by Momo, and Deku does realize that he's getting hit on, and then he just starts flirting back. After that, they have a dinner, and pretty much they give Deku the guest bedroom. Deku goes into the guest bedroom, but Momo's father doesn't trust Deku and pretty much just locks his door on the outside. So Deku is in his room, and then he hears pretty much the door open. And he sees Momo walking in there, and Momo looks at Deku and smirks and says, "So, are you single?" Deku says, no. I mean, yes, I'm single. Deku said no because, well, the person that was with him when this happened was pretty much his girlfriend. Now, she's not really a main character, I'm just making her up. Her name is uh, Jessica. And pretty much she just ditched Deku after the first person got mauled. After the first pro hero got mauled by the zombies, she literally just pushed Deku down in the ground and just started sprinting her ass off. And her girlfriend did have some sort of speed quirk. She can increase her speed by 2 times. So Deku pretty much saw her girlfriend literally just ditch him. Mama was actually really surprised that somebody would just ditch a cute guy like you. Deku blushed at this and said, "Oh, you think I'm cute?" Jaku blushed and said, "I'd never meant to say that out loud." And pretty much after that, they start talking more and more, and they get a little bit more intimate. And you can understand what happens next. You can understand what happens next. They pretty much just start, making out. So, at this point, they're just going at it, and by the time it's morning, Mama pretty much gets up from the bed, limping a little bit, and pretty much she goes into her room. Now, Deku got that horse, so pretty much Deku wakes up feeling really happy about himself and goes into the living room. Momo's family is packing up, putting pretty much gear on them, and Deku asks what's happening. They say, "Well, it's a supply cargo coming here in a couple minutes." Deku says, you guys are already packed up to the grim." And he says, "Well, that may not be enough for a couple of years." Deku says, "You're gonna stay in this fortress for a couple of years?" Deku's father says, "Maybe. There's nothing else to do. It's a zombie apocalypse, kid." Pretty much says, "Do you want to come with us?" "Momo, you can come, but are you sure you want to come? Because I don't want to put your life in danger." Momo agrees, and pretty much Deku after that agrees as well, and they go outside. They pretty much have a couple of guns on them, and they're walking down the street. They're pretty much just walking down the street. They're walking and walking and walking and walking. And then they stop at Deku Beach because that's where the cargo ship got dropped off. Deku is seeing this happening, and Deku pretty much sprints towards it. Azao, pretty much Momo's father says, "Stop, kid," and Deku's spinning towards it because he did see, you know, he saw a zebra cake with that cargo. A zebra cake in the zombie apocalypse that gotta hit different. So Deku pretty much just runs over there and he gets mollywopped by a pro hero zombie. Deku gets pushed down to the ground, and this pro hero zombie is none other than Carmel Woods. Carmel Woods is a zombie. So pretty much he starts turning his hands into wooden stakes and starts trying to shank Deku. Deku's dodging and dodging and dodging and weaving, and eventually he grabs pretty much the Carmel Woods' hands and throws them back and pretty much sucker punches him in the face, turning on his adrenaline on accident, obliterating uh, the wood off of Carmel Wood's face. So, if you're probably wondering how strong is Deku's adrenaline, about the same strength as All Might. So basically, Deku sees after what he just did, and eventually he goes over to the cargo ship, grabs a couple boxes, and he tells Momo, "Yeah, is this enough?" They say that's enough, and Momo says, "I'll go get one more," and grabs one more. And then Deku looks back and sees pretty much another zombie running towards her. Uh, and Deku sees that it's another pro hero zombie, the hose hero zombie. So pretty much Deku sees this happening, and pretty much his eyes go pure white, and the zombie just stops dead right in front of Momo, not even moving. Momo's dad and mom are confused AF what's just happening, and Deku is just standing there, and his veins are popping out of his body. Deku, pretty much starts putting down the crates, putting out his hands, making the zombie kneel down and lay on the ground. Momo takes his chance to make a knife and pretty much just stabs the zombie in the brain. Deku gets immediately disconnected by the zombie, and Deku's eyes turn normal again. Deku's confused on what just happened. Momo says, "What just happened?" And Momo's father and mom point at Deku and says, "What's your quirk, kid?" Deku says, "My quirk, I never really knew about it. My quirk was dormant until..." Deku pretty much just breaks the news to them about how he almost got mauled to death and he got eaten. And they pretty much say, "You carry the virus." Momo gets a little bit disgusted because he did just, make out with a zombie carrier. Deku says, "No, guys, it's just my quirk." They pretty much take him back to this house, but chained up, and they put him in the basement. They're rich, so they have a lab. So pretty much, they do a little test on Deku, and Deku does get tested that all other tests that he can't give birth to zombies, all that other stuff, and pretty much that he can function normally. He doesn't have a lust for brains or blood. And pretty much Deku also is told that he can regenerate. Deku is confused but happy now because he can regenerate his bony hand and his leg. Because Deku did find a couple of leggings and an arm and a long arm glove. So that's how Momo didn't know Deku had a bony leg and a bony arm. So Deku pretty much sort of takes some bandages from their health place and just bandaged up and put it around his bony hand and leg. Deku eventually stops, seeing there is a good amount of bandages around his leg, and Momo's dad says, "So you can't, you're safe now, but if you try to eat any of us, I'll kill you. You understand?" Deku says, "I don't need to eat brains to survive, and I basically don't even need to eat anything to survive." So, so Momo's father smirks at this, and pretty much they explain what Deku's quirk is, because they do have a quirk maker. They do have a quirk scanner. That's how they scan Momo's quirk. So the quirk scanner, pretty much they know that Deku has the ability of adaptation. Deku can adapt. Deku's body can adapt to any pretty much form he wants it to, or adapt to any virus he wants it to. So he adapted to the zombie virus while it was in his system, making him half zombie. So Deku was confused about this, but also kind of happy that he had a quirk that could help him not die. So Deku did in the process become sort of immortal. If you could say that zombies are already dead, so they technically are immortal unless you kill them. But yeah, Deku can be killed like any other zombie by getting decapitated. No, zombies can be killed by decapitation. You need to destroy the brain to kill a zombie. So Deku pretty much is in his room, pretty much just looking at his bandages, seeing that they work out more. They are more comfortable than a freaking a long leather glove. So Deku gets up and walks inside the house, looking around, pretty much just guessing around, and eventually Deku bumps into Mama. Mama was on her way to meet Deku, and Mama pretty much just kisses Deku and says, "I'm sorry I doubted you." Deku and Mama and Deku are pretty much just a thing now, because I just speeded up that relationship because, well, you guys already know. I like Momo X Deku ships. I love them. I also love Deku X what was it? Deku X Mirako and uh Mount Lady ships. I love those things. So yeah. I also like the traditional ship Deku. What was it? Ochaku and him. But eventually Deku will be having other girls after him, and it is kind of gonna be kind of sort of maybe a harem. But yeah. So guys, I'm gonna leave it off here. I'll come back with more of an action-packed scene. So see you guys later, and I'm probably not going to finish this. But why the hell not? You go in the comments if you want me to. Bye. Like that button.